Hey guys, this is Adam. So I got into a pretty interesting spot today in a four bet pot. This is a 50-cent table I was playing earlier, and got into a spot on the turn where I really wasn't sure what to do. So as soon as my session was over, I wanted to review this hand, and as soon as I was reviewing it, I realized this is a good spot potentially to make a video about. So I decided to do that. And one of the more interesting things you guys will see here is how differently this spot is played at 100 big blinds effective versus 180 big blinds effective, which is what me and Villain were in this hand. So you can see here it was under the gun 4 bet versus big blind, and he started the hand about 180 big blinds effective. Um, and you'll see through this analysis how different the strategy is for both players. Um, Off of the different stack sizes. So here we 3-bet jacks versus the under the gun. We get 4-bet here, and we see a flop. Check it, villain bets small, and we call. A little less than 1/3 there. Now the turn is where I really wasn't sure what to do. When we get 4-bet from under the gun here, I don't have a huge sample on this guy, but I expect his range to be aces, kings, ace, king, and not much else ever, really. And I did have that in mind here. So against this tiny bet on the turn, I knew without having a spade, it was likely I could just be folding this hand here against how strong his range is going to be in this spot. Uh, I'm going to be dominated a lot here, and without a spade, having no real outs. Yeah, I just didn't know what to do. In this spot, though, I figured, this is such a tiny bet, just in case he is ace-king with a spade and checks back river. If it bricks, I just decided to call and see what happens. And, yeah, so we see amazing river, and Pio is actually checking with jacks, as we'll see, 100% in this spot. Just it's checking range 100%. Um, I decided to just shove here. I just feel like this is a board that's going to get checked back a lot. Likely, and I didn't want to give him that opportunity, so I jammed. I'm not sure how good or bad this is, but I just didn't want to give him the chance to check back and miss out on his stack with the nuts on the river here. So I jam, and he calls with kings with a spade. Um, but yeah, we'll take a look at this spot in PU now. So this is the 180 big blind effective sim. So these are the stacks going post flop, and we'll look here at the imposition strategy. So under the gun is basically range betting a half pot here in PO off of this stack size. And when we take a look at this, the 100 big blind sim here, you can see how different this spot is played. So same spot, but villain's now checking 43%, and when villain does bet, you can see PO's heavily favoring these smaller size. This is a 23% pot bet, 33% pot bet. I believe we gave him, yeah, 23 and 33. So PO is never using this half pot sizing. It's always using a smaller sizing here off of 100 big blinds. And I just thought that was very interesting. And villain's also checking almost half the time. Where if we go back to the 180 big blind sim here, uh, betting bigger, never really using these small sizings, never checking. It's just a range bet half pot. Um, but in this spot, villain bets a little bit less than a third. So we'll plug that in here. And I tried to node lock this spot. I'm not super familiar with doing this inside of PO, and I get this warning. It says setting a locking strike does make sense on an incomplete tree. Do you want to run plug it anyway? And I saved the full tree to see if it would fix that warning message, but it still pops up. So if anyone has an idea on how I can fix that, really not sure what's going on here, because I just wanted to come in and node lock um, the 1/3 bet here, and I wanted to put aces and kings in his range because I figured if he's betting a third pot with kings, it's probably just range betting, or like with whatever hands he's showing up for betting under the gun with. I figure he's probably just going to be betting 1/3 pot on any flop, probably, especially one like this. Um, but yeah, so I'm just gonna have to continue without node locking, because even if I would try to do it, I'll show you guys quick the error it gives me. And I'm not really sure how to fix this. I was trying to look some stuff up online and on YouTube, but no one, I didn't seem to like notice anyone else having the same error. So like I try to do this, set strategy and close, and I get this error. Can't do an incomplete tree, so I don't know. Not like a super experienced PO guy yet. I've only had this software for a couple months, but um, yeah, that's definitely something I would like to figure out how to fix so I can get more out of these sims in the future. But anyway, when villain bets 1/3 here, this is the big blind defending strategy here. Basically, any pairs continuing, we're folding 20%, and it's just these ace highs without flush draw, jack 10 without a flush draw. Any 5x, these 6-5, 5-4s continuing, all these straight draws are continuing. Now, if we did face a half pot bet, we'd be folding 30%, so a bit more folding going on. And nothing changes too much, but now these lower pairs without a spade are also folding. The 5-4, 6-5 without clubs are folding. So yeah, a bit tighter on the larger bet. And so we'll give the 1/3. We end up calling here with jacks, which PO does. And now this is the interesting turn spot here where I really didn't know what to do. So on the turn here, villain is showing up with like no combos because I couldn't node lock the 1/3 pot bet, but we'll we'll just see how this plays out. So PO's betting small again here on the turn, favoring this 1/3 pot size over the other options, which is 66% pot and then an all-in. So heavily favors a smaller bet size, which villain does use on the turn. He uses a smaller than 1/3 pot bet, so we'll go there. And now we can see with jacks, my specific combo was the jack of diamonds, jack of hearts. So that's actually the combo that it prefers to fold the most. It's the only one that a call is minus EV on here, which I mean makes sense. And I think that it's even likely that this is going to be more of a fold with how much villain's range in practice is going to be just aces and kings heavy and very less likely to be bluff heavy at all. So probably going to be folding jacks. Should be folding jacks more in practice than here. I just figured it was such a tiny bet. I just decided to call in the spot. It was also a 50-cent table, and there's a lot of random stuff can happen at these tables, and I don't know. Even though I had no reason to believe that this guy would be doing anything crazy, I just decided to call on the turn, which probably was a mistake, but ended up working out in our favor regardless on the river. But yeah, jacks are continuing. It's a small bet. If he sized up, then just pure folding, which makes sense. If he bet half pot on the flop, we called, and then on the turn, his strategy, he's still betting a third pot, still wants this small bet, and now my hand is folding a lot more frequently when he goes bigger on the flop. So that's interesting to consider. So because they were the two bets were so small, it seems like calling with jacks wasn't that big of a mistake. So we bet, or he bets, we call. Six of spades turn, check. He bets, we call with jacks. Now on the jack of spades, yeah, PO is just always checking here. I don't know how big of a mistake it is to just jam jacks. It's weird how it's not even considered as an option here because I like the out of position player is given the chance to bet, but I guess Pio is just always checking in the spot. Um, I just wanted to jam just in case. Like I feel like it's possible villain could check back. Although I guess checking back kings with the king of spades would be a big mistake. But yeah, I don't know about my shove on the river. I'm really not sure how bad that is. Um, but I know, yeah, he calls. So this is kind of how things look with jacks. This is the 180 big blind effective sim, and so we saw how that played out. Now, if we look at how differently this pot is played out at 100 big blinds, I was just curious about this and wanted to see, if I was in the same position but we weren't as deep, what I would do with my exact hand. And so you can see like just how much more with the lower stack to pot ratio in position is checking on this flop. Basically every single combo is checking at some frequency. Aces betting more often than kings, which is interesting to me because I feel like kings are usually bet more frequently than aces, just because aces don't need as much protection. But kings checking more, and Pio, when Pio does bet off the 100 big blinds, it's favoring these small sizings, so we'll give villain a 1/3 pot bet, which he used. Jacks with a spade are actually raising, and is this just a jam, the 740? Yeah, it would be. So just shoving about at like 50% frequency with a spade is interesting. Same with the queens, even shoving without a spade at times. Um, okay, yeah, so we're raising it decently often in this spot off 100 bigs. Ace 5, wow. Every ace 5 jamming is very interesting. Um, and then we're just calling the straight stuff, smaller pairs with backdoor draw. Okay, so with our specific combo, Jack of Hearts, Jack of Diamonds, we're calling. And on the 6 of Spades turn, given the option for, at this point, will be a shove or a small third pot bet. Pio favors a third pot bet, which is what villain does on the turn. And if I was in this spot with my hand, now with the lower stacked up pot ratio, it's just a pure fold. And then not doing much calling, we're basically just going all in or folding in this spot, calling 6-5. And everything else is shoving or folding basically. But yeah, it was just very interesting how differently this played out. So it seems like my play with my hand wasn't such a big mistake, how deep we were, but had we been off 100 big blinds, I would have had to just fold the turn with this hand specifically. And yeah, it was just very interesting as I was reviewing this hand how differently things play out, especially the imposition strategy off of 100 big blinds here, checking almost half the time and favoring the small bets. But then, off the 180 big blind stack, imposition is just range betting half pot. So I thought it was definitely interesting to see how much more aggressively Pio plays on the deeper stack size. And definitely something to consider in these 4-bet spots. Um, in future sessions when I'm, be sure to pay attention in these spots how deep we are and how that's going to impact the strategy of both players. So 4-bet pots definitely not an area I've done a ton of work in. So I always like reviewing spots like this. And I just thought this would be an interesting one to make a video about because I had a really close hand given how things played out with a 1/3 bet and a call and then a 1/3 bet on the turn. My call wasn't terrible here, but Pio is also going to be wider. Like the Munker ranges are going to be wider than most people in my pools I'm playing against, their 4-bet ranges are going to be pretty heavily weighted towards aces, kings, ace, king, and very rarely are people going to be 4-betting in those games uh, with other stuff, or at least it doesn't happen very often. There are like some whales that do crazy stuff, but um, yeah. So in practice, Jack's probably better to fold when I think about it, but either way, things worked out. Um, Wanted to make a video here to show you guys just some differences, how this hand plays out differently off the different stack sizes. Thought that was interesting. Haven't made a video like this before. Any feedback is greatly appreciated. But yeah, thank you guys. Had fun with this, and we'll definitely be doing more of these in the future. I feel like it's a good way to learn and give you guys some insight into my studying and what I've been doing. Also, if anyone can help me out with the node locking issue I've been having, that would be really appreciated. But thanks for checking this out, guys.